Hey, Mike Cameron here. You're going to learn today. Let's get right into it. Hey, Mike Cameron here. And today I want to finish what I started yesterday, part 2 of a real estate transaction. I feel like I should recap, but in a quick fashion. So I'm going to get right into it, guys, because I don't like to leave things complete. So, first step, usually transactions initiated by representing a seller, listing a seller's property, then prospecting for buyers, right? Or you might be on the other side of the transaction, you might be representing a buyer. There are contracts that need to be involved here. You should get your clients to sign. So imagine you get them to sign, you're listing a seller's property, you have a buyer. Transaction broker is the relationship that you want to use with your clients. It allows you to represent both sides and make a commission for both sides. Yes, you're involved with negotiation for both sides, but remaining neutral, impartial, and you're basically just presenting offers to each side along with some professional guidance to help them make an informed decision until they can accept the offer. That's called a meeting of the minds or mutual assent. And then they're both locked into contract for purchase and sale of real estate. Buyer has due diligence period. They have financing terms if they're getting financing. If it's financing, 34, 45 days to the closing. Money being held in escrow. Most likely a title company. Could be an attorney. Could be a real estate brokerage company that handles the closing of real estate transaction. But most likely a title company. Rule of thumb, I said about $1,000. Could be more. Depends on the situation and using that as leverage to make your clients look more attractive and locking them into the deal. If it's financing, FHA, VA, conventional. You got a few other types of financiers. Different types of financing options might be available, like USDA loans. I don't even know if they exist anymore. First time home buyers program. No down payment required, but they have to live in the house for a certain time period. If they don't, they're required to pay it back, and they have to sit through a class in order to take advantage of that program. So imagine we're nearing the closing date. Imagine everything goes well. Probably not in real life, but imagine everything goes well. Closing date is scheduled. That's going to be on the sale contract. The amount of time to consider the offer is also on the sale contract, and the offer is on the sale contract. But anyhow, closing date, to solidify the deal, both parties have to sign. There's always a lot of way more documents to sign on the buyer side of the transaction, especially if they're financing. Seller is fairly quick most of the time. It depends on the situation, obviously, but it shouldn't take up the whole day or even half the day to close on the property. Quick sign. If they need somebody to explain it to them, then obviously that would take time if they don't know any or have any knowledge going into it. Now, as a real estate agent, you got to teach your clients something. You have to. Throughout the process, don't be afraid to give away a little bit of special sauce, okay? Because even though you inform them and you're thinking, okay, man, if I tell them how to do this, then they could do it on their own, because you don't need a real estate license to sell your own property. Most people will still use a real estate agent, and it would be very wise to, I think, to do things the right way to make sure that there's no mistakes. And they're going to use you because people are loyal and by nature, okay? So what that means is, even though you taught them how to do it themselves, you taught them how to fish per se, they're still going to come back to you because of that knowledge you provided, and they'll be thankful for it. And now the next time you help them with a transaction, it's a beautiful relationship, because now they don't rely on you or lean on you so much because you already taught them. But if you don't teach them along the way, and they're going to just be asking questions and questions and questions. Not saying that bothering you is a bad thing, but it does take time away from other clients too. And think of yourself kind of like a doctor, right? You know, everybody wants your attention. You know, they want to spend as much time with you as possible. That's because people don't have the knowledge that the doctor has. But as a real estate professional, you're in a unique position where you can actually provide the same knowledge to them. And like I said, they'll still come back to you. So I think that's going to really help you guys out. Follow up always. I didn't even get into leads, but I think I can give you a couple ideas of how to generate leads if you're a new agent out there or existing agent and you're still kind of like, okay, well, my broker didn't teach me anything. I talk about this in class. If you're one of my students, you know this. But one way to generate leads is open houses. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, I don't have a house to list, so how do I host an open house? Now, this is something a lot of people won't tell you, and I don't even think brokers know about it, but to tell their agents. But go to one of your coworkers, colleagues, or even a friend that you know that's a licensed real estate agent, or even in a networking environment, somebody that has some listings in some beautiful neighborhoods. Doesn't necessarily have to be a beautiful neighborhood, doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar property, but if they're listing, you ask them, you go up to them and say, hey, listen, do you mind if I host an open house for you? And they're going to be like, okay, well, what's the flip and catch, right? We are thinking, hey, well, how about this? How about if I find a buyer, first of all, they got to be stupid not to allow you to host an open house for their property. I mean, think about it. It's just another opportunity to promote and get the property sold. And you're listing the property, so isn't that the ultimate goal? I mean, they could be stingy and say, okay, well, I want to host an open house. I'm sorry, I don't want to let anybody else do it. But that's kind of their prerogative, right? So if you ask them to host your open house and they're kind of stingy, give them some options. Say, hey, listen, if I find a buyer that results in a sale, we split the commission 50-50 because you allow me to have this opportunity. What's the problem with negotiating? And what idiot will not accept that, right? They have to be an idiot. No offense, okay? But anyhow, so you ask them to host an open house. Maybe it's a multi-million-dollar property. Maybe it's Dr. Phillips somewhere in Central Florida. It's Windermere or Lake Nona or something. And now you just gave yourself the opportunity to get a whole bunch of leads if you market the right way. Now, marketing is a completely separate video, right? It's a completely different subject. You got to spend the money on marketing. You are a brand, and you have to find clever ways of doing it, and it costs money too. And you can't be cheap here. With marketing, you can't be cheap. It's an expense. You just have to weigh how much does it cost you versus the return. Is it worth the return, right? Is it worth that return that you anticipate for the money you put in? If you believe that and you strongly believe it, then yeah, go for it. So social media, for instance, you have a website, but I mean, come on, social media is actually more important than a website, okay? And you could disagree with me on this, but if you're paying for SEO and you're spending a lot of money, or you have the base knowledge yourself, you don't have to rely on somebody, or you have somebody good in your inner circle that's good, that's amazing with SEO, then yeah, website could be beautiful, right? Because people look on Google, property Central Florida or something like that. So anyhow, back on subject. So I was talking about getting leads, open houses. First thing that the potential client does when they walk through the door, and the thing that you want to make sure you do, is you want to put together a sign-in sheet, okay? Now, I'm pretty sure most training programs will tell you about this, on how to host an open house. So if you end up working for a broker, they should inform you how to do it. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of brokers don't know jack, okay? They go into the industry, all you need is 2 years of experience, right? They don't even have to close on a single deal. Okay, think about this, right? Think about this. This is really important for you to hear. Some brokers they start off as a sales associate, right, in the state of Florida. They have 2 years of experience. They don't have to close on a single transaction in that 2 years being active with a broker. Think about that. So that 2 year experience is met, and then they apply for broker, which they're allowed to, and they pass a state exam. They get the broker's license without one single transaction under their belt. And then how do you expect that person to train somebody, right? How do you expect that person to really help their associates and even grow the brokerage. I mean, learning along the way is going to get your brokerage into a lot of trouble. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to cause legal problems. You're going to hurt people in real estate transactions. You're going to lose the brokerage company, right? And your sales associates are not going to make any money. So that's a problem too. But to generate leads, and there's tons of ways to generate leads, right? You could get seller leads in a particular way using CMAs and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get to that just yet. So host an open house, put together a sign-in sheet. Buyers come in, sign the sign-in sheet, put their contact information. Now, they might not be interested in buying that property, and that's not really where you make your money, because as we discussed, maybe you negotiate, still recovering. I don't know why. Must be the weather change. So the deal you negotiate and imagine is 50% of commission if you find a buyer. Now, seller, the listing agent is going to be more than happy with that. But once again, besides the point. So your money is made off of those valuable leads, okay? Because they might not be interested in buying that property, but they're in the market, they're looking. And if they're in an open house without a real estate agent, most likely they're not being represented by an agent. So that is an opportunity to represent some buyer leads, people that are interested in purchasing similar properties. And if your niche, or you want your niche to be luxury homes, find an opportunity to host an open house for a luxury home. Okay? Now that's some secret sauce right there. And hopefully you got something out of this. This is part 2. Obviously follow up with your clients. The sweetest words to a person's ears is their own name. Memorize names, make a file, do your discoveries, follow up with your families periodically on holidays, send them cards, let them know you're thankful for their business, and they will return the favor tenfold, and they'll give you leads. You say, hey, give me 5 names, I'll do all the work, you don't have to do anything, and I'll call them and see if they're interested in buying, selling, and so forth. So put together a list of 5 names, 5 families you think might be in the market to purchase or sell. And that's what it's all about, right? So, okay. Now I just got a text message from my secretary. All right, so yeah, I got to wrap this up. Guys, I love you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Until next time, God bless.